Ever heard of the phrase, the people of Hong Kong governing Hong Kong? Well, if not, here is a history lesson. The principle was put forward by Deng Xiaoping in the early 1980s as part of the one country, two systems policy. And decades later, this principle remains intact and continues to protect the high degree of autonomy that Hong Kong enjoys. And now President Xi Jinping calls for patriots governing Hong Kong. He says this is the only way that stability can be maintained in the region. So what is the difference between the two phrases? And why is it imperative for people who love their country to run the SAR?
爱国者治港一直是一个中央高度强。
This is not a new concept. Deng Xiaoping actually made it clear it has to be patriots who govern Hong Kong. The reason we're bringing up this principle again is because it has not been well executed in the past. From the Occupy movement to the anti-fugitive bill protests, the political reality tells us there are people who use social movements, foreign interference, and loopholes in the electoral system to reach their goal, that is to take full control of the public power and pursue independence from China.
根本原则高度的爱国者治港。
So the phrase patriots governing Hong Kong should not be taken for granted. It is a simple response to the chaos and instability that's been wrought on the city by these movements. In fact, China has made it a fundamental principle of the one country, two systems policy. The expectation now is that through institutional reconfiguring, existing loopholes can be found and plugged up. But what constitutes a patriot? Is it a purely subjective term?
这个爱国者标准应该说是非常清楚的。
The standards are very clear. Patriots must respect the country and sincerely support the fact that Hong Kong is returned to the motherland. In other words, not partaking in any separatist activities and safeguard the prosperity and stability of Hong Kong. In practice, political candidates must pledge to follow these principles, and their future behavior must be subject to scrutiny.
分离的活动，分裂的活动。
Well, these aren't some arbitrary standards. They're pretty well thought out. By applying these standards in practice, Professor Tian believes it will automatically help filter out those who want to harm the system. Now, if you don't want to pledge, you're out. But a verbal pledge is not enough. If anyone does manage to slip through the cracks, they can be found out because actions speak louder than words. But are these standards going to apply to everyone? What about those who don't have a clear political stance?
只要不从事危害国家安全。
These standards for patriots are set to select political leaders. It'll filter out the bad apples in the electoral system. But for ordinary residents, even if they do not meet the standards, as long as they do not commit crimes, they can still carry on with their lives as usual. And their democratic rights and freedom will be protected.
还是反中乱港势力。
Hong Kong was a British colony for over 100 years, and as a consequence, the idea that it is part of China became weakened. But it's been well over 20 years since the city returned to China, meaning patriotism and love for China should be encouraged. Especially in the political realm, Hong Kong cannot afford to be governed by those who have no love or respect for their country.